we have convened some district administrators together to answer some frequently asked questions that have been coming up about our upcoming school year. So we'll go ahead and start with our superintendent, Damian Smith.
Well, welcome patrons. We are holding this question and answer to answer some common questions that we've been asked throughout the summer and especially this last few weeks. We're going to try to clear up any misinformation. First off, we strongly feel as a school district that face-to-face learning is essential to student success. We also know there are several unknown circumstances that families are facing due to COVID-19. We value all those circumstances. Today's information is strictly from the district's perspective on what decisions we have had to make and what we feel as educational professionals is in the best interest for the majority of our students in our community. Also, what we have been directed to do by the state and county health officials. Our Smart Start plan has been submitted. It was submitted on July 27th. It was due August 3rd. We have not had it approved at this point. We are still waiting for the Wyoming State Department of Education to send us feedback. While we answered these questions today, we considered the parent surveys and the feedback we got from those surveys. Those surveys were an important piece for us to move forward in these decisions, along with the mandates and requirements from the state and county health officials.
Okay, so the biggest question I think everybody has is, are we going back to school?
So are we going back to school? That is the biggest question. We are going back to school. Teachers will come back August 18th. Students will come back the first day of school based on the school board approved calendar, August 24th. And so, yeah, we are coming back to school.
And I think the next biggest question is, will we have sports this year?
Yes, we will have sports this year and they will be starting on time. Golf will start August 10th. All other sports will begin on August 17th. Middle school sports will start on August 24th. There will be parent Zoom meetings for activities on August 13th, and you should receive a notification through Remind. If you do not receive that notification, please contact the athletic director's office.
So what are some of the options that my student has for academic learning this school year?
I can take that one. Based on our parent input that we got in the spring and that Superintendent Smith sent out again this summer, the overwhelming majority of parents said that they hoped we could have in the building school again. We believe as educators that's the best option for school. So our plan is to have school with kids back in the building and teachers back in the building, face-to-face contact, and kids having the opportunity to be with their friends and grow academically and socially and emotionally. So that is the first option, is attend traditional school. Second option would be homeschool. There are people in our community who have been in homeschool for a long time. And the way people understand that would be another option. Another option would be to attend one of Wyoming's accredited online schools. They can meet the standards of the state of Wyoming, have a Wyoming certified instructor teach those. So that is another option as well. We also have some ways that kids can do some online pieces of school offered through our school district. If you would like to speak more specifically about your student and the requirements of your school building, you'll have to contact your building principal to have a specific conversation about that.
Okay, so as a follow-up question, if I choose to homeschool, can my homeschool student receive high school credits?
So as the high school building principal, I want to make sure that parents understand the difference between homeschool and online. So homeschool means that you are providing the curriculum and you are doing the teaching. So if you choose a homeschool method, then no, we cannot as a district, any place in the state of Wyoming, schools are not allowed to award high school credit towards graduation when you're doing a homeschool situation. So the answer to that is no, you cannot receive credit for homeschool instruction.
So what if I choose to use an online service to educate my high school student as opposed to me building my curriculum? Then can they receive credits?
Yes, they could, but the one thing you have to make sure is that you understand that if you choose an online service provider, it is up to you, and we can help you if you let us know what provider you're intending on using, but that service provider has to be accredited for the high school to be able to award high school credits.
And can my homeschool student graduate from Lyman High School?
No, a homeschool student would not be allowed to graduate from Lyman High School for the reason that I stated previously, that we cannot award you high school credits for a homeschool situation. Now, if you're going to talk about doing an online through K-12 or Connections Academy, then that would be the school that you would graduate from, would be the school where you receive those credits. And the online school, K-12 and Connections, would take the Lyman High School credits and apply those towards graduation through their online services.
So are we going to offer online instruction to high-risk students or students who have high-risk family members?
I can take that question. So, as a school district, in our plan, we expect students to come to school and be in face-to-face learning, and we feel like education piece that is essential. If a high-risk student in a high-risk situation wants to look at online options, again, I think it goes back to Mr. Smith's answer. Please talk to the building principal first and see what options we have for online school through our school district. But our main goal is we're going to offer face-to-face learning in a safe environment for all. And we think that's essential, and that's an essential piece of students learning. But if you choose that if you decide your student's in a high-risk situation and you want online options, first go to the building principal, talk to them about the options that we have through our school district, and they'll have a professional perspective on what that looks like.
Okay. What about kids who self-quarantine because of an illness in their home or they have symptoms of COVID?
So, as in years past, anytime a student misses school due to illness, they will be given time to get caught up, and they'll have access to the materials. The way that we're going to be providing access to materials will be through, you can pick up materials at the school, but we'll also be posting classroom assignments on our Google Classrooms. So in the spring, we created Google Classroom accounts for all the classes, and so if you miss, access to the assignments that are being missed will be there, and our teachers are going to do the best they can to add some additional resources there for kids to understand some of the instructional components.
Okay, so let's talk about what's going to be different this year. If you could each explain what the classroom, hallways, gymnasium in your building coming into school is going to look like for my student during the day at each building. Let's go ahead and start with the superintendent.
Okay, so things are going to be more normal than different in our face-to-face learning. The county health officer has required us to have masks in situations where we can't be 6 feet apart, and so that's a different piece. And then he also required us to do at the minimum temperature checks, temperature screening as people enter the building, including students and staff and visitors, and so that will be a different piece. But these administrators can talk about what that looks like in their building, but there are some differences, but it's more normal than different.
Yeah, so for example, at Uri, kids getting on the bus, they'll be temperature checked. If they have a fever, that doesn't mean they have to go home. If they have a fever, we're going to do some additional questions, but that'll happen at the school building. If you bring your student, if you drive your student to school or they walk, they'll be temperature checked when they get to the school. And we ask that they have a face mask on when they're transitioning. So on the bus, when they're coming into the building, getting to the classroom. We're setting up our classrooms so that we can maintain that 6 feet of distance, so students don't have to have masks on during the instructional time. But when we do transition to lunch or to special, students will be asked to put on a mask as they travel through the hallways and come across other people. When they go out to recess, masks are not required. According to Dr. Adams from the county health, there's the risk of catching something outside is extremely low, and we're only going to be outside. The recesses are 10 minutes long, and according to the research, to be within 6 feet for 15 minutes would put you at risk. And so really don't feel like that would put people in the at-risk category. And so that's what it kind of looked like at your age.
So for Lyman Intermediate School, we'll have some of those same basic things going on during high transition times as kids walk into the school building, as kids are in the hall during our transition periods between classes, as they go and pick up their lunch, and then again when they leave the building. Those couple of minute times each day, they'll be required to have masks on, or asked to have masks on in the hallways. In the classrooms, we also are, I think, able to set up each classroom so that we can maintain the 6 feet of social distancing. So we won't have masks in classrooms for kids or teachers. So we're going to allow, to reduce traffic in the hallways. We'll manipulate some of the times kids are there, encourage kids to put some books in a backpack and use their lockers less often. For lunchtime for us, we'll be using multiple areas, so we can maintain social distancing in the lunchroom as kids are in there. We'll use our gym and our commons as additional areas for kids to go to eat their lunches. Gyms will be used as normal for us during class times. The PE classes will work on activities that help encourage social distancing. For athletic events, we're currently limited to 250 people in the gymnasium, so some of the access for spectators to view those activities will be limited, and you'll be getting information from your coaches and through the athletics department about that.
And I'll just dovetail off what's already been said. Some slight differences maybe at the high school. I've already gone through class numbers, and we only have several classes that are over 20, so we feel like that if we're under 20, we are going to be able to social distance within the classroom. And we have ideas for those 3 to 4 classes that go over the 20 threshold to be able to help them to social distance. And so we think that we can keep our classrooms safe. One of the things that wasn't mentioned is that we intend to, especially at the high school, because we have students transitioning in and out of the classrooms, that we will clean the desks that students are sitting at, and we will clean those desks for the next class to come into to try to help slow down any spread. In the hallways, we're the same as we will ask our students to wear masks for that 4-minute transition. We don't think that'll be too bad to have to do, and that'll help minimize the spread of germs, and we cannot guarantee that students are going to stay 6 feet apart as they transition through the hallways. When you talk about lunch, as Mr. Smith talked about, the setup of the high school makes it that we can use our commons area where we'll only allow 2 students per table, and that will not be enough room then to feed all the students that stay at school. And so we'll open up a gymnasium, which happens to be right beside the commons area, and we'll have chairs set up in the gymnasium for the overflow. And then also, of course, I think while the weather's nice, we'll encourage some students to go outside, so hopefully we'll take advantage of the good weather and do that. I think that's about it. We'll have locker room, we'll have to sanitize locker rooms and so on, but I think we have a good plan of how to keep our students safe while they're in high school.
Yeah, one question I'll touch on is we didn't talk about transportation, I guess, real in depth. Transportation, students can have to wear a mask on the bus, and transportation is purchased devices where it'll take the temperature of the student getting on the bus. So a student will wear a mask on the bus. When there's other students on the bus, they will have their temperature taken. There will be hand sanitizer when they get on the bus. There's hand sanitizer in the buildings and the classrooms. We've purchased all that, and we're getting ready for that. And they will have to be temperature checked twice. So when they get on the bus, they're temperature checked, and then they'll go into building. And if they have a temperature of 100.4, like Mr. Jensen said, that does not mean that we're sending the student home. They'll be asked additional screening questions by the school nurse or a staff member that's designated to that. They'll be sent to what we call a holding room, the nurse's office, and that's where that will take place.
So just to clarify, are masks or face coverings required?
So, if you're talking about ever, the answer is yes. They're like Mr. LaMoche said, the county health officer has dictated that if we can't maintain social distancing, masks are required. For, I think everyone said a similar message, that when we're in high traffic areas, getting to class in the hallways, that for those few minutes, masks will be required by the county health officer. But while we're in classroom instruction, so for the majority of our day, the answer is no. We believe that we can social distance in our schools and keep everybody safe that way. So for the most part of instruction and a kid's time in our school, they will not be masks.
And that's the same for staff. We're not just saying students only have to wear masks. The staff fall in that same category.
Should a student or a staff member choose to wear a mask, obviously then that is their option, and they are certainly allowed to at any time if that's something that they need help and feel comfortable.
Okay. Will the district provide the face coverings or masks?
So right now, we're asking that all the students come to school with their own mask. The way that society's been working recently, I feel like a lot of people have masks for their kids already. And it would be a lot safer for parents to take charge of that and to launder their own child's face mask. And so we have purchased some for our staff members, and if you can't come up with a mask, we'll do what we can to help you out with that.
Okay. Will there be exemptions to wearing masks?
I can answer that question. There will be exemptions to masks in our buildings. There will be probably students that are not wearing masks. The definition of face covering, what falls under that is masks. There could be face shields. Those sort of things could be in there. But if a student or staff member comes and they have a doctor's medical exemption to a mask and they provide that to a building principal, we follow those medical exemptions from a doctor. And so there could be students that have certain conditions, certain impairments that a doctor says, hey, this isn't going to work for the student, and we're going to honor those. And it'll be just like an IEP. Now the teachers will know that, students won't know those sort of things. That's not, we don't share that information. But yes, there will be exemptions to masks, and that is an option for students. But again, it has to be a doctor's exemption for that to happen currently in our school district.
So what are the consequences of not social distancing or mask wearing?
So we've discussed that as an administrative team, and there's a lot of different approaches and different age groups that these administrators deal with every day and teachers deal with every day. But we're going to approach it in an educational manner first. We're going to ask teachers and staff to prompt the students similar to classroom management. They're going to model the wearing of the mask in the certain situations that the mask has to be. And then we're going to educate again. We feel that face-to-face instruction in the classroom is essential. In order for us to do this is what the county state health officer is requiring us to do. I'm sure there's not very many people that enjoy wearing the mask. Kind of staff, students, myself. But in order to get students back into where we feel it's essential for their learning, we have to do this. We don't have a choice. We didn't get to make these decisions. So first, we're going to prompt students, remind students in the hallway, remind students. Second, we're going to model it, and then third, educate. And then, to a point that it becomes where a kid's habitual in their behavior, and these gentlemen here get to decide how to handle those situations. So that's how we're going to approach it.
Okay, will face shields be provided?
The guidance that we received was that face shields aren't a great option for a face covering when it comes to the spread of COVID. So the school district will not be providing face shields, but there could be situations where in an elementary classroom where a teacher has to teach reading or teach a student to say their letters, where they have to see a student's mouth. There's probably going to be a face shield situation there, or in a special services room, where they're one-on-one with a student, there's probably going to be face shields, but the district is not supplying face shields. We do have masks. If a parent doesn't have a mask, we definitely have a mask, and we have masks for staff. But face shields, because of the guidance that they were getting, that it's not a great face covering, we're not providing that.
Will there be any kind of dividers in the schools, such as plexiglass, plastic?
Yeah, so one of the things that we're trying to implement and use in some of the classrooms to help create that 6 feet of distance is the plexiglass or other dividers. The plexiglass is nice because you can see through it and communicate fairly easily through it. And so we're doing what we can to create that 6 feet of distance so kids don't have to wear masks all day.
Question the kids probably have is there still going to be off-campus lunch?
Yeah, so I know in my building there are a number of students who go off campus to Taco Time, TJ's, home, and we still are going to have off-campus lunch. It helps us a little bit in the school reduce the numbers of kids we have to manage inside the school building with social distancing and lunch times. And the local businesses have regulations that they have to follow as well to keep kids safe. I've been and talked to Taco Time and TJ's, which are the ones closest to me and the ones most frequented by my school, and they're both working on options for ways to provide student lunches, in the current, with using the current rules that they have. So yes, is the answer.
Yes, at the high school too, and for the same reasons Justin has stated, it actually probably helps us a little bit because it would be hard for us to have 200 students keep a 6 foot distance in our commons area. So yes, we'll still have off-campus lunch.
And while we won't be off campus, there could be some lunches happening outside on nice days to help create some of that space that you're in.
Awesome.
We'll hope for more good weather than typical.
Yeah, we do all the good weather we can.
Okay, will visitors be required to do the health screening that you talked about? Will they be required to wear masks? And what if they refuse?
That's a good question. I'll take that. Yes, they will be required to screen, and that's a county and state mandate. If they refuse, we can't let them in the building. We can't let them amongst our students. And so, the answers to those two questions: yes, they'll be required to screen, and if they refuse, we're going to ask them to leave.
If my student comes in contact with another student or someone who tests positive, will I be notified?
I'll take that one also. So if a student comes in contact with another student who tests positive, so contact tracing is what that's called, and the school district is not doing any contact tracing. That when a student is positive, the county health office knows that test result, and they're not going to share that name with us. So anyone that comes in close contact, if you're going to be notified, that will come from the county health officer, not the school district. We are not involved in that situation at all. And so same with it, if your student tests positive, the county health officer is going to take care of that, the quarantine, all those things. So the answer to that question is, will I be notified? Not by the school district, because we won't even know.
If I homeschool my student or have them do online school because of COVID, can they still participate in activities?
So the short answer is yes, you can participate in high school activities if you homeschool or do an online coursework. The one thing that you need to be aware of, though, however, is that if you choose to do an activity and you're homeschooling or doing something online, you're going to have to come to the district office or contact Lyman High School to get the proper paperwork for the WHSAA. There's a short, I believe it's only 1-page document that you have to fill out. And then the other thing that you need to be aware of is that you will have to pay a fee to the Wyoming High School Activity Association. And I believe it's somewhere in the $100 range. And what that is it covers liability insurance. So those are the two things that you'll have to do if you choose to do homeschooling or online.
Okay. If I choose not to send my student to school because of COVID, what impact will that have on the school district?
I can answer that, the impact on the school district. First, if you decide to send if your online's your option, please talk to the building principals before you make a decision of where that direction is. But financially, we receive about $15,000 per year per student. So if 10 students decided to go online school that wasn't through Lyman School District, that translates into about $150,000 that we don't get to provide an education for our students. So that's the financial side of it. But the educational side is we just believe that a face-to-face environment provides a lot of opportunities. As Mr. Smith said, we get to educate a student, the whole student at one time, the mental, the social, all those aspects. And I think everyone's common goal is when a student leaves home, leaves high school, is there going to be a positive piece into society. And so we truly believe that we get to have that opportunity when we educate kids. So it's more of an impact on students is what we're worried about. Yeah, there's a financial piece, and it hurts the school district and all students, teachers, but it's that full student piece that we stress about because we care about kids.
And I believe there are frequently asked questions about the fall sports coming up that have been posted on the school's website. So there's a lot more questions regarding activities. You can access that there.
But yeah, again, any additional questions for anybody, please don't hesitate to contact myself as superintendent or any building administrators or Mrs. Rollins as our special ed director.
Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you.